How did Jasmine Crockett expose a contradiction in the GOP's favorite talking point about who really uses Snap? She didn't need a debate stage, just one interview, one data point, and the entire Republican argument collapsed on itself. Before we break down how Jasmine Crockett dismantled the GOP's narrative about food stamps using facts they desperately don't want you to know, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because this story reveals why Republicans attack a program that actually keeps many of their own voters fed. The MSNBC studio had that familiar cable news look. The producers expected a routine segment about the Farm Bill, GOP proposals to restructure SNAP, and the usual talking points. What they didn't know was that just minutes earlier, Crockett had watched a clip that completely set her off, in the exact way that makes for unforgettable television. The clip came from a Young Americans Foundation event, one of those conservative youth conferences where speakers fire up the base with dramatic lines about big government and liberal excess. A rising right-wing commentator took the stage and launched into a rant about SNAP. He declared that the food stamp program was bloated, corrupted, and creating a permanent underclass, accusing SNAP recipients of buying junk food with taxpayer money. And then he went even further. He said Democrats intentionally expanded SNAP under Obama, not because poverty increased, but because Democrats wanted to buy votes. His conclusion? It's time to end SNAP. Not reform it, end it. The audience erupted. He looked proud, convinced he had delivered a knockout argument. But in Texas, Jasmine Crockett was watching, and she knew almost every word he said was either misleading or flat out wrong. By the time the MSNBC segment started, she was ready. The anchor began with a standard question about the Farm Bill. But within seconds, Crockett pivoted. She said, "Can I address something I just watched?" Because it perfectly captures the dishonesty in how Republicans talk about SNAP. And we need to be very clear about what the facts actually are. The anchor could tell this was going to be good. She encouraged her to continue. Crockett didn't hesitate. She began with the biggest myth of all, the idea that SNAP recipients are lazy and don't work. She said, "Here's a fact Republicans never mention, over 25% of SNAP recipients are working. They have jobs. They're employed. And they're still poor enough to qualify for food assistance. Why? Because wages haven't kept up with the cost of living. The federal minimum wage has been stuck at $7.25 since 2009. Meanwhile, rent has gone up. Food has gone up. Healthcare has gone up. Everything has gone up except wages." She explained that Republicans aren't attacking laziness, they're attacking people who work full-time jobs that still don't pay enough to survive. Then she exposed the part Republicans really don't want discussed: who profits from SNAP the most. It's not the recipients. It's corporations. She said, Walmart employees use SNAP at higher rates than almost any other company's workers. Why? Because Walmart pays poverty wages. So taxpayers are effectively subsidizing Walmart's labor costs. The Walton family, one of the richest families in America, pays workers so little that those workers need food stamps, and then they spend those food stamps at Walmart. She paused to let that sink in. Then the anchor brought up the junk food argument. Crockett immediately shut it down with actual USDA data. She said, SNAP recipients buy basically the same types of food as everyone else. The difference in junk food purchases is minimal. And you know why people buy more processed food? Because it's cheaper. That's not a moral failure, that's a structural economic reality. By the end of the hearing, one thing was unmistakable: real accountability doesn't come from polite questions or procedural formality, it comes from relentless pursuit. Jasmine Crockett wasn't simply reviewing evidence or asking questions, she was demonstrating the public's right to insist on answers, no matter how powerful those involved might be. The FBI director's inability to answer basic questions underscored a sobering truth: when the stakes are high, even major institutions hesitate. The gaps between what the public deserves to know and what is investigated are often filled with silence. And silence, in the world of the powerful, is protection. The public must keep watching, keep questioning, and keep demanding transparency. The full story only emerges when courage refuses to be quiet, and when leaders like Jasmine Crockett refuse to let the conversation end. Power may bend rules, but persistent scrutiny ensures it does not go unchecked. The public must keep watching, keep questioning, and keep demanding transparency. The full story only emerges when courage refuses to be quiet, and when leaders like Jasmine Crockett refuse to let the conversation end. Power may bend rules, but persistent scrutiny ensures it does not go unchecked. 3 days later, everything Crockett said was confirmed when a leaked GOP strategy memo surfaced. It warned Republican members that attacking Snap too directly was dangerous because so many of their own voters rely on it. The memo suggested focusing only on waste and fraud, and avoiding specifics. Crockett responded, "This proves exactly what I said. Republicans know cutting Snap hurts their own voters. They're just betting they can distract people with culture war politics so they never notice." In a follow-up interview, she summed it up perfectly. "When you present facts clearly, you force people to either deal with reality or admit they're not interested in the truth. Republicans can keep saying Snap creates dependency. But now the public knows their own districts rely on it most. They can keep saying the program is bloated. But now the public knows it keeps working families fed because wages are too low. The truth is out there now. Whether it changes policy depends on whether voters hold politicians accountable." If this breakdown of how Jasmine Crockett used one interview to expose years of Republican misinformation on Snap helped you understand the gap between talking points and reality, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with anyone who needs to hear the truth. Drop a comment telling us whether you think Republicans will ever admit their Snap rhetoric doesn't match reality. Your engagement helps us keep bringing you stories where facts completely demolish political spin.